Welcome back to the final team reveal for Biz's side here. Now, if you guys don't know Biz, you haven't been watching the channel. So Biz is a perennial top 100 finisher, absolute machine for fantasy. Been playing for about 15 years now. And I've got to say, mate, Tommy Starling sitting up the top there, 51 points, played a bit of lock on the weekend. Like, it was all good for him. Talk us through your logic there, because that was a brilliant pod pick.
Yeah, look, Thomas Starling. It was. I've had him for bits and parts of the preseason. Took him out, and then half an hour before kickoff, added both him and Horsburgh back in the team, and I was stoked with Starling. Logic. I'm not going to gloat too much. I mean, the game's done. I'm more focused on the rest of the week one team, but with Starling, I just looked at his minutes when starting at hooker, and generally he never plays less than 60 minutes when starting. Levi dropped off the bench pretty early. I didn't think that Owen Paddy would get more than 20 minutes. And then I went back and watched the tape of his games with Levi last year. And what was happening a lot of the time is that Starling was playing as a first receiver / lock ball playing middle role when Levi came on. And so when I saw that Horsburgh was starting and Smithies was on the bench, neither of them are really ball playing locks. So I thought that there was a chance he may get minutes. And priced at 33, he only really needed 60 minutes or 55 minutes to be 10 points of value. So I thought, look, surely Owen Paddy's not playing more than 30 minutes. Took the gamble, paid off, lovely line break, 51 points, about 17, 18 above his break even. Can't complain, 68 minutes, 60 at hooker, 8 at lock. Look, can't complain. Very happy with that pick. And Horsburgh, I think, late changes to get him in when he was starting at lock, 55 points. Happy. Missing Hosking wasn't the best, but 62 points, 68 minutes is kind of what I expected, between 60 to 65 minutes. So he's not someone I'm going to rush to get in my team, but I already have one change in the horizon. And look, I was wrong on Tamale. He went out there, he proved that he belongs in first grade. I thought Hopwade had the run over him, but after that game, no chance, especially with Savage suspended. I need to go get Tamale as soon as lockout is lifted after this week.
And what's your plan there? Because I'm looking through this team, and you've got, Shibasaki there, you got Nwangani Tawase there, Purdue, you got a few options there, Campbell on the bench as well. Like, your outside backs are pretty thick. So I assume you're moving one of those guys off for Tamale.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say that the Shibasaki pick is the one that is most likely to move. I had here's my last pick, 312K to work with. I've put him in there. Now, missing Tamale actually is the reason I've been enabled to pick Mark Nawanga Nita Wase. And the reason for that is he could be dropped for Billy Smith next week. So the risk was very high, priced at 350. But pedigree from a fantasy perspective is, though limited sample, looks pretty strong. Now, he had an average of about 48 playing wing for the reserves last year. And he's a big body who busts tackles and he likes to offload and is an aerial threat for the Chooks. So I think he could have a pretty good, scoring profile. And look, the worst case for him is that he gets dropped for Billy Smith next week. It's not a problem for me, because based on the price points, and if Tamale goes to about 330K like the stats and break-evens will show, then I can just swap out Nawa to Tamale next week. Similar dual position profile, tackle busting winger profile. So it works pretty well for me. So because Tamale is sitting there for me next week, I can take this risk. And same with Shibasaki, that if he comes out, look, he's safer that now that Kotoni Staggs is out for about a month. He's averaged 32 at center in weaker teams than the Broncos, who should be an attacking juggernaut this year. So I'm thinking that price at 22, he should at least be able to average 30 plus for the first month. Gives me a plug and play option, because my center depth isn't great. It's Toya, Shibasaki, and Purdue. So all kind of unknowns, but with Shibasaki, he's a bit more of a vet. And then Jaden Campbell, look, I had Brimson last week, but I think I'm speaking to you too much, Longy, because Jaden Campbell, he's getting hotter and hotter, and I think he can have a huge season. And look, my thought process was simple, that if I want to sit a guy on my bench for week one, it might as well be a guy who can be the top at his position. And so I said, look, I'll skip Brimson, who's a bit of a mid-ranger. I'll go straight to Campbell, who I think could average the highest out of all fullbacks this year. And that was pretty much the logic.
It's interesting because there is a trade-off to that, right? So if you downgraded Campbell to Brimson, you'd free up, what's that, about
200,
150K?
nah,
200K?
220 odd K. Yeah.
120, yeah, okay, there we go. So that's a big amount
Yeah.
of cash, right? Now, if you did that, you could maybe look at moving Nwani Tawase to someone in that sort of high 500s area, right?
Garrick. Yeah. Looked at
Yeah,
Garrick.
Garrick, or you could go a bit cheaper to, I mean, you wouldn't go to Amazu with Pong already there, but you could jump to Bradman Best in the centers. Like there's a bunch of guys that you could look at. Has that crossed your mind at all in terms of sort of spreading out the cash and, maybe Campbell might be, just a bit better than Brimson, or do you think Campbell's going to be far and away better than Brimson? Well,
Look, I think Brimson has more value in terms of, I think Brimson's maybe 10 points, 11 points underpriced. I think he can hit the mid 40s to like mid to late 40s, whereas I think Jaden Campbell's already priced at 54, but I think he can average 60 to 62, 63 with upside for even more. So my logic was that with Brimson, I'm not trading in a keeper. I'm not starting with a keeper. He has upside, but when it gets to the final few spots of my team, I look at, okay, out of all the players, who are the guys with the least upside or the most risky upside? And I thought with Brimson, he's very attacking stat reliant. So I had Brimson, I had Gilbert, and I had Tuolangi occupying these spots.
yeah.
So then I thought with these guys, I have three potential guys. Like Tuolangi could not play 80 minutes. He could miss a lot of tackles. He could get dropped from Madison week 2. Brimson reliant on attacking stats, misses week 1, and Gilbert might be eased in. So with that profile, I thought, okay, why don't I go to some proven commodities? I know Campbell will average 55 based on last year alone. It would take a lot for him to take a step back, because even if he takes a step back in offensive stats, he should gain a few more through kick meters and additional responsibility. We know Hopgood will get at least 55 plus minutes for a 50 plus average. But then I looked at the Parramatta bench and I thought there's actually a chance Hopgood plays 70 minutes here. Like, they don't have the bench for him to be sitting on the bench for 20, 30 minutes. So if he plays 65, 70 minutes, he could go back to a high 60, high 50s to low 60s average. And then the plug was Shibasaki. So I thought it'd be better to get two guys that I know that I won't be trading out all year, that could be the number one player in their position, and a guy who could still make me money versus three guys that could make me money, might not make me money, and also mid-range price. So gone back from that mid-range value to the guns and cows strategy, which I'm more comfortable with. So have tinkered with both, but ended up thinking that this would be better for me.
I feel better seeing a guns and cows team for you. It feels more natural. When you were sending me some mid-ranger team screenshots, I sort of felt like, he's gone away from the path. You got to come back, and you definitely have here. I've got a few guys that I've got some questions for you about, and I want to hear how concerned you are about them. So first one, Connor Watson. Zach Docker-Clay named on the bench. Connor Watson has, had his moments where he's disappointed fantasy coaches in the past. What makes you think that this is going to be the year where he gets it together and is consistent for us?
Yeah, I think there's really no options for the Roosters, because there's an argument that Connor Watson plays 6 if Sandon Smith really stinks it up. But I think Watson proved that he was a very strong hooker last year. I think in the finals, in all the games, he played 80 minutes at hooker. So Robbo clearly really trusts him playing in the number 9 position. I'm not too worried about Docker-Clay and co. I think that with their bench composition, with Steep and Fiketti, that there's a lot of minutes to be played through the middle as well. I know Nat Butcher's a big minute player, but White is not a big minute player, and I don't think Wong will be a big minute player. So Butcher will play a chunky bit of minutes, Radley will play 80, and Angus will play 80. But in the middle rotation, outside of them and the props, I don't think Collins is going to play 50, 60 minutes anymore. I don't think his form at club level has been that strong to warrant those minutes. Lenny is obviously out for 2 weeks. I think White plays 40, 45 minutes and Wong plays similar. So I see Watson playing 70-odd minutes with upside at lock. And look, I just think his dual position is very handy. His upside is really strong. He's a guy that can average 57, 58, but can also score 75 plus. And so if he scores that week 1, I'm on him. I agree with your logic that the upside is maybe 7-8 points. But I think when you kind of look for expensive guys who can average close to 60, you're happy to take less of an upside just for the points base. Yep. So hasn't left my team.
Fair play. And then another one I'll talk about here is Tom Duffy. Now, for me, Tom Duffy's been firmly planted in my 17 since I got him. So goal kicker, does a bunch of general play kicking. Playing next to Tom Dearden, who is a great player, but not a dominant playmaker by any means. So I reckon Duffy's going to have a big chance to score well, even in a matchup against Manly where I don't tip him to win. Is there a reason you have him in the emergencies there? And is there a reason you ran Jack Cole over him in particular?
Solely because I didn't know for 100% sure that, Duffy was going to be named at 7.
Okay.
I mean,
Yep.
so I think, look, I definitely will be running Duffy over Cole going forward. Like Cole, like I expected a kind of 30 odd score for Cole. I didn't expect him to do much playmaking. I thought just in a good Panthers side could get a easy try assist and line break assist. Exactly what happened. Got to 29. But my view was I didn't want to take. The thing with Cole is that I knew he was going to play. So Duffy might not have made it, and I might have been stuck with guys, cash cows like Gazevsky or Corey Pakes and stuff on my bench. Yep. So, you know what? If Duffy comes out and scores 50, great. Can't do much about it. I do have, Jaden Campbell there to loop. So if Hubner comes out and he only plays 35, 40 minutes and he scores 25, I can easily loop him for Duffy anyway. I don't have much faith on Sandon Smith versus the Broncos and Purdue at center. Who knows? He could go into my starting side for Shibasaki anyway. But I definitely think bench composition. The problem with my current bench as it stands is that there's a lot of halves and centers and guys who could just be hot and cold week to week. So a lot of matchup-based play. But definitely agree with you. Duffy is a better proposition than Cole going forward.
No, that's fair play. And then Isaiah Yo, you got on that. How do you feel about this score? Because we've seen quite a few Yo owners getting very loud about him beating break even and having a great game in Vegas. What are you thinking there with that 70 points? Like, does it change your view, or is he just the same guy that you had round one?
Same guy round one. I couldn't care less. Like the Yo score for me is like the least interesting score of my squad because Yo is a guy that's just going to give me that kind of 60 to 70 range. Whether he scores a try, whether he makes a ton of errors, like he'll just balance his stats to hit 60, 70. Hasn't changed for me. Like he scored a pretty big point try and is only going to score what I think his latest update on the NRL app is 68. He's only 3 over his break even. Doesn't matter to me. Like he's stable and I got him for stability because I have so many cows that could, be really bad. The guys who are gloating over Cleary or thinking you're crazy not to own Yo, like seriously, just you paid for what you got. Just be realistic. It's just a good pick, but that's it. It's just a good pick. It's not a great pick.
Would you consider captaining him over Cleary at some point soon?
No, unless Cleary continuously just doesn't get to the next level over the next few weeks, absolutely not. Like what I saw from Cleary, 600 kick meters, dominated 95% of the playmaking. Panthers haven't played their best team all preseason and come out and still managed to win against a top 4 contender. Like Cleary should go back to his 75 plus average this year with that level of kick meters. Every week captain. If Roosters are as bad as we think they will be next week, he could ton up. Not changing the captain anytime soon.
I'm with you there. And then you've got Peter Marmazelis on the bench. Now, I'm keen to hear your thoughts on what you're expecting from him in terms of minutes and in terms of points, and then how you think that South team will change when, oh my God, I'm completely blanking on his name. The halfback.
Yeah.
Dodd. Yeah, that's it.
It's Dodd.
I keep thinking Hubner. I just keep saying Hubner in South jerseys. But yeah, when Dodd comes back from his suspension, and Sullivan's obviously on the bench there right now, so maybe we see Humphrey move back to the bench. Like, what's your forecast for Marmazelis?
Marmazelis this week, I think, plays pretty big minutes. I think just because Sullivan's on the bench this week, but he kind of doesn't really play that much hooker. Like he kind of just is a jack of all trades guy. I think Marmazelis can go 60 to 80 minutes this week for a pretty good score. But I think going forward, look, he probably plays 50, 60 minutes with Humphrey, playing Humphrey's playing about maybe 20, 30 minutes as a hooker and then roaming lock for a bit. So I think the proposition fantasy-wise is good. I think there is a chance he loses his spot to Humphreys down the track. But I think he's, it's a question of, it's a point of not overthinking it at the start of the year because he can come out with 40 points on just tackles alone, at price of 319K. So, look, I'm not too worried about Marmazelis because everyone has him anyway. So if it's kind of like the Metcalf pick, like he was, even if he's terrible, it's like, oh, well, he's terrible for everybody. Everyone's playing him. So not too fussed about him. If he stinks it up, again, options to trade him out pretty early in the season.
Red hot. Look, I'm pretty happy with this side here. So my feedback is it's very you, this team. There's a lot of guns and cows, and you've made a few very intelligent sort of data-based picks of some pods. So a Seyfarth is a real pod. A Tom Starling is a real pod there. Shibasaki, I'm not seeing in many teams, but you've gone and turned a downside of not having Tamale into an upside of getting a shot at both Shibasaki and Nwangani Tuase. Two guys that I can't get in my team because I don't like the job security for Noah, right? And I might look at him next week if he keeps that spot, but it's just not possible for me. Whereas you can turn that into a Tamale pick. So you've really pivoted nicely and sort of used the situation to your advantage. And I think for coaches at home, that's something they really need to look at with their teams. What can you use to your advantage? So, okay, maybe something didn't go your way. How can you turn that into an advantage for you? I'm going to throw to you, man, with your last words here. So either something on your team or something for the coaches at home. Last thoughts on Fantasy 2025?
Yeah, look, no real final thoughts. I think, look, you're right. Like the Noah pick is just trying to be flexible. Like obviously, it hurt seeing Tamale go crazy against the Warriors, but
49 though, right?
but
Like, you're not
yeah,
freaking
look,
out
at
about
49, but
49.
didn't score a try. Could have easily like Raiders. Like, I think it's just about not panicking. Like it's a long season. Like don't look too many. Like there's too many people who are very reactive who are trade raging after one score or see someone else and will trade range them in. Just remember like why you bought players. They'll usually take time to build into it. Like if you see the role, if you see that like Metcalf, for example, 300 plus kick meters, goals, a lot dominated the playmaking. As long as he's in the side playing the 7, like just take it easy, see how the first few rounds play out. Don't burn trades, and other than that, like don't gloat too much. Like a guy can get a good score one week and terrible the next week. Like Starling could get benched for Levi next week. Touch wood, he doesn't. But yeah, just keep calm-headed. Be guided by the stats and follow your instincts as well. I think that's really important. I think that's why Longy is a ex-champion, that he has great instincts and he follows them. But look, everyone, good luck for a good season ahead, and hopefully I'm at the top at the end of it.
Mate, that's beautiful. Take a breath, relax. You've made your selections across the preseason. Give them a couple of weeks to flow through. That's very good advice, man. So look, appreciate you showing this team. Looking forward to our next video. We're going to do a draft game. So basically me versus you. We're going to go against each other and pick our top scorers for the week at different positions. Then for the regular season, guys, we'll go into our traditional method. So buy, hold, sell is the big one. That comes out Wednesday mornings at 7 a.m. That's the one where Biz and I share our most detailed and researched takes on players. Every other video is good, but it's a bit less focused than that one. That's the one where you really have to be paying attention. So thanks for jumping on, Biz, and we'll see you guys on the next video.